If someone looked at your calendar this week, what would they learn about your faith? Would they see a man who believes in God, who is sovereign, or a man trying to hold the world together by sheer effort? Every one of us has a theology written into our calendar, not the one we talk about in Bible study, the one we live out in real time. For a lot of us, the story our calendar tells us is this: I trust God with my eternity, but not with my Tuesday. And in my recent interview with Graham Cochrane, we talked about this exact tension. How easy it is to say God comes first, yet build a life that never slows down long enough to prove it. Graham told me about how, early in his entrepreneurial journey, a mentor challenged him to take Fridays completely off, even when he was broke and building from scratch. That decision didn't make sense on paper, but what it did was force him to trust that God could do more with 4 days than he could with his 7. That's what faith over the calendar looks like. And today I want to unpack how the way you schedule your time reveals what and who you really trust. Let's jump in. Psalm 127 says, "Unless the Lord builds the house, the builders labor in vain. In vain you rise early and stay up late, toiling for food to eat, for he grants sleep to those he loves." That's not a verse about being lazy. It's a verse about misplaced trust. God isn't condemning hard work. He's confronting anxious work. The kind that wakes you up at 3 a.m. because you're worried, about that meeting, that deal, the email you haven't sent. He's saying you can build it all, the business, the brand, the bank account, but if I'm not building it with you, it won't last. Our calendars tell the truth about our theology. They reveal whether we believe results come from hustle or from Him. You can say God first, family second, business third, but your calendar might tell a different story. I know because I've been there. There was a time, and I still struggle with this, when I could talk about, say, margin and faith and rest, but if you looked at my week, it was all calls, travel, strategy sessions, and zero time that said God or family. We tell ourselves we're doing it for them, for our wife, for our kids, for God's glory even. But most of the time, we're doing it because we're afraid. We're afraid of falling behind. We're afraid of missing out, afraid of not being enough. But here's the truth. Faith isn't proven by what you say on Sunday. It's proven by what you refuse to touch on Friday night. It's proven by what you leave in God's hands when you close your laptop. A courageous man is one who believes that obedience is more productive than overwork, because God blesses trust more than toil. So how do we begin to live this out? How do we start putting faith over the calendar? Let me give you a few practical steps. Number one, start with a calendar confession. This week, open your planner or your phone and ask yourself one question. Where does God appear in here? If the only time he shows up is on Sunday morning, say from 9 to 10:30, you're building your life on spiritual fumes. Block off time for prayer, rest, and intentional family connection the same way you block off those important client meetings. If it's not scheduled, it's not sacred. Number two, create margin on purpose. Margin is a form of faith. Busyness says, it's all up to me. Margin says, I trust that God will fill the gaps. When you leave open space in your calendar, you're giving God room to move, to interrupt you, right, with divine appointments, to whisper when you're quiet, to surprise you with His provision. So schedule the white space and protect it like a meeting with the CEO of the universe, because that's exactly what it is. Number three, time tithing. We tithe our money. Why not our time? Before you plan your work week, give God your first and best hours. Maybe it's early mornings in the Word. Maybe it's taking your wife on a midweek lunch date before everything gets loud again. Maybe it's blocking off Friday afternoons to rest and reset. Don't give God your leftovers. Give Him your first fruits. He can do more with your 90% of time than you can with 100%. Number four, the faith filter for opportunities. Before you say yes to that new project, that trip, that event, ask 3 questions. Will this strengthen or strain my family? Will it deepen or distract my walk with God? Will it multiply peace or multiply pressure? If you can't answer yes to the first two, you already know what faith requires. You just have to be courageous enough to say no. Number 5, make prayer a planning meeting. Don't just pray about what's hard. Pray before you plan what's next. Ask the Lord to set your priorities before you ever set your appointments. Remember Proverbs 16:3. Commit your work to the Lord and your plans will be established. Faith-filled planning isn't passive, it's proactive submission. The truth is, when you start living this way, scheduling by faith, creating margin, and saying no to what doesn't align, you'll feel a pull to drift back into old habits. Because the world will tell you, that slowing down means falling behind. But it's not true. What feels like less to the world often looks like obedience to God. So before we close, let's call out a few myths that will try to pull you back into busyness and replace them with the truth that sets you free. Myth number 1, I'll rest when things slow down. Reality check, they never will. Life doesn't slow down, it just shifts seasons. If you wait for perfect conditions to obey God, you'll die waiting. Myth number 2, my busyness is faithfulness. No, sometimes our faithfulness is just fear in disguise. God isn't impressed by exhaustion. He's honored by trust. And warning, the enemy doesn't need to make you bad. He just needs to make you busy, because a distracted man can't lead his family and a burned out man can't hear God. So here's your challenge this week. Look at your calendar tonight, not as a tool, but as a testimony. Ask, does this reflect trust or control? Circle one area where you've been living like it's all up to you. Then hand it back to God. Delete unnecessary meeting. Block time to pray. Say no to something that can wait, because courageous leadership starts with surrendered time. And when you trust God with your hours, He multiplies your impact in ways no hustle ever could. Subscribe to the Courageous Men podcast so you never miss an episode. Would you share this with a brother today who's maybe needing the encouragement or the challenge to be courageous? Join the Courageous Men community today as well. I want you to start learning with other men. I want you to lead your family, your business so courageously. Let's take action. Let's be courageous.